January 30th, 1649. London awoke in an eerie, unnatural silence. Frost gripped the streets, the Thames breathed out a cold mist, and the sky hung low and heavy, as if it already knew that blood would be spilled this day, blood that would change the course of history. England was about to witness something no European nation had ever seen before, the death of its king at the hands of his own subjects. Charles I Stuart had lived his entire life believing himself to be chosen by God. From childhood he had been taught that a king stood above the law, above judgment, above the people. His word was law, his will was truth. That belief became his curse. He ruled harshly and stubbornly, refusing to listen to anyone but himself. He dissolved parliament, imposed taxes without consent, imprisoned those who dared to oppose him. And each time, he was certain God stood at his side. When patience finally ran out, England erupted into civil war. Brother rose against brother, son against father. Villages were emptied, fields turned into mass graves. Charles lost armies, lost allies, but never lost his conviction that he was right. Even in captivity, he continued to weave plots, secretly negotiating with Parliament's enemies, hoping to reclaim his throne at the cost of yet more blood. For many, it became clear, as long as Charles lived, the war would never truly end. Putting a king on trial was an act of desperation and defiance. No one had ever dared to judge a monarch as an ordinary man. Charles sat in the courtroom calm and cold, contempt in his eyes. He refused to recognize the charges, refused to answer the court, refused even to look at his judges. In his mind, they were not men but rebels, usurpers doomed to divine punishment. But the verdict had been decided before the trial ever began. He was sentenced to death for treason against his own people. He spent the night before his execution in prayer. Those who saw him said he was strangely calm. In the morning, he put on 2 shirts, not out of fear, but so the cold would not make him shiver. He did not want the crowd to mistake the trembling of his body for fear of death. He was led from the palace through a covered passage, hidden from public view, as if even the walls did not wish to witness what was about to happen. Outside stood the scaffold, draped in black cloth. The executioner and his assistant wore masks. They knew their names would be cursed, their lives forever marked by this act. The crowd stood in silence. There were no cheers. No cries of triumph. Only a heavy, suffocating dread, as if everyone sensed that with this execution, the world they knew was collapsing. Charles spoke quietly but firmly. He called himself a martyr, claimed he was dying for law and liberty, blind to the bitter irony of his words. Then he knelt. Slowly, deliberately, he laid his head upon the block. For a brief moment, time itself seemed to stop. The blow was a single one. Clean. Decisive. The king's head was severed from his body and fell into the basket. Blood soaked the wooden boards of the scaffold. The executioner lifted the head by the hair and held it up to the crowd. At that instant, a sound rose over the square, not a shout, but a groan, long, raw, filled with horror and remorse. People wept, turned away, fell to their knees. Some dipped handkerchiefs into the blood, believing it sacred, believing it carried the last trace of divine authority. Charles's body was treated with a measure of dignity, but his death brought no peace. England became a republic, yet the nation did not find calm. Fear, violence, and the thirst for revenge merely changed their shape. 11 years later, the monarchy was restored, and the executed king's son ascended the throne. His first act of vengeance was to order the corpse of Oliver Cromwell exhumed, hanged, and beheaded, as if history itself insisted that blood must always answer blood. The execution of Charles I was not only the tragedy of one man, but of an entire era. On that day, the world learned that a king could die like any mortal. But it learned something else as well: breaking a crown is easier than healing a nation. And the shadow of that falling axe still lies across the history of Europe.